everybody, and welcome to Mama Says. I'm your host, Amber Autry, and this week I talked to the number one, the GOAT, my mom, the reason I started this whole project. This interview is amazing, and I'm so glad to have it. We talk about pushing through hardships, succeeding in a male-dominated field, and overall just being a badass. You're going to learn so much from my mom, just like I have my entire life, and still continue to do. So, get cozy and enjoy this episode of Mama Says. Hi, Mama.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm okay. Just chilling, relaxing.
Maxing out. Your day
what
off.
I do
right?
on my day off. Yes.
Hell yeah. Did you go to the farm today?
I did not. I went yesterday.
So my family, for everybody listening, has a farm in Tennessee that has been there for how long? It's been in our family how long?
Since around the mid-1850s, I think it's been passed down through our family.
Yeah, so that is wild. And I didn't realize how important the farm was to our family and until I got older.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like growing up, we traveled a lot. And Mama you would always be like, you know, this farm means a lot because you could know. Well, you tell it. So like, what did the farm mean to you traveling around?
Well, like my mother always said to me, it was always a place to come home to. And it would always be there. So no matter where you went in the world, you would always have a place to come back to. And that's pretty much what it's meant to me. So, you know, no matter where I went, I always knew I had a home to go to. That's what the farm means. And I think it means that to everybody who's been a part of that farm.
It does. And especially for you too, because you have our entire lives, we've, you know, traveled around and seen new things. And I think that is part of your spirit, is a traveling spirit.
Yes. Yeah. When I was welding, we used to travel around a lot and stay on the road, but we always had the farm to come back to. And I would end up going back there every now and then. Get tired of being on the road and come back and work locally and stay on the farm.
It's really nice. And so my mom is amazing. She just mentioned she was a welder. So, and you didn't go to school for welding.
No, I taught myself how to weld.
Yeah, talk about that.
On that farm.
On the farm?
Well, next door to the farm. The next door neighbor had a welder, and I went over there and asked him if I could borrow his welder, and I taught myself how to weld. And then my first job was welding for the pipe department at the Cookeville Tennessee High School that they built. And that was in 96, I think.
That's so cool.
In the summer of 96.
I remember driving around and you being like, you see that building? I made that building. You see that building? I made that building.
Yes. Yeah, I still drive around town and look, I welded those handlebars, or those, not handlebars, what are they? They're like...
guardrails?
Railings, step railings or whatever. I put those in there and they're still standing. That's pretty cool.
That is... So most people
There's
don't...
a building. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
There's a bank in Cookeville that I won't name because they might get in trouble. I don't know, but I was not certified. I never was certified welder. I just did it like freelance, I guess. And I'm the one that welded the I-beams that holds this bank up. But they wouldn't let me do it on the site there at the bank because I wasn't certified. So they would have me weld them in the fab shop and carry the beams over. And it's still standing.
They guessed right.
I'm just amazed every time I drive by it. Still there.
You're like, huh? No, you know this. You were an awesome welder. You were very good.
Yeah, I was a good welder.
But most
Yeah.
people don't just up and be like, I'm going to wake up today and teach myself how to weld. So, what was your path to getting to teaching yourself how to weld?
Well, oh gosh, it goes back so far. I had gone to, I, I had, I had gone to jail for killing your dad,
We'll get to that.
and but before I had gone to jail, it was in appeals for a couple of years, and I had ended up marrying someone else, but then ended up having to go back to jail, and he was a pipe welder and a pipe fitter, and made really good money when we were married. And while I was in jail, he left me. He said he wasn't coming back, and he didn't. And when I got out of jail, I thought, okay, if he can do it, I can do it too. There's no reason why I can't. And so I thought, well, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna try it. So I went next door and told the guy, I said, show me what I need to know. And then I just kept practicing every day and every day. And I did it. And I thought it's either go on welfare or teach myself a trade. And so I decided to teach myself a trade, and I did.
Wow.
And started welding. Yeah.
How old were you when you got out of jail?
26. I think I got out. I was 25 when I got out, but a couple months after that, I turned 26. That was 1996 when I got out.
And Mama, that's so amazing. And I know you, so I know this is your nature to just like excel at stuff. You don't take time,
Thank you, honey.
of course, to be like, woe is me. But I feel
Hmm.
like, we'll get into why you went to jail and stuff like that, but a lot of stuff was going on in your life. And I feel like at 26, a lot of people would have gotten out of jail and been like, woe is me. This sucks. I'm just gonna, I don't know. What am I gonna do? What did you already have that mindset where you're like, no, I get stuff done? Or what made you be like, I'm going to teach myself a trade instead of maybe going the easy route, quote unquote?
I think I think I had already been like that for a while because before your dad died, I had already applied to college and got accepted.
Mhm.
Ended up having, not going because of what happened. But I had already been like that. I'm going to do something. I can't just sit here and twiddle my thumbs or, just have stuff given to me or whatever. As you get older, that wanes. But in my 20s, I was very gung ho and just we got to get stuff done. We can't waste time sitting here. So it was always like that at that time.
Yeah. And I think some of that came also from your mom, Granny, right? Like she wouldn't let
Yeah, I think
you.
so too. Oh no, Mom, your grandmother, she was not like that. You did something, even if it's wrong. You get up and you do something.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Definitely.
yeah,
So let's we've talked about this uh my entire life, but and it's let's get into why you went to jail. So what happened? How old were you and what went down?
well, um, I was with your dad, and your dad liked to beat his women, and because I'm not the only one that this had happened to, and it ended up we had split up. The newspapers tell it a different way, but we had been split up for about 2 weeks when it went down. And he had a shotgun that his dad had given him. And it was left in our house. And he had moved in with his parents. And I asked him if I was starting a new job that night, asked him if he would watch you. And he said, yeah, but I need to watch her at your house because my parents don't need a toddler running around.
So I
And
was 30.
he was 17 years older than me, so his parents were seniors. And so, yeah, that night I told him, I was kind of leery about it, but I told him, I said, as long as you leave when I get home, I don't mind you watching her here, but you have to leave when I get home. And of course, when I got home, he wouldn't leave and had ended up putting that gun behind the couch, waiting for me to come home, and said that some guy had left a message on my answering machine. And he always told me, if you ever screw around on me, I'll kill you. And now I don't take stuff like that lightly. If somebody says that, you take them seriously. And because he meant it. And so that's when he grabbed the gun and from behind the couch while I was sitting on the couch and said that one of us wasn't leaving the way that we came in, and kept repeating that over and over again, which means on a gurney or in a body bag. Mm-hmm. To me, I mean, somebody standing there holding a gun on you and they're saying that to you, that's what that means.
Yeah.
So he ended up laying the gun down, and I picked it up, and we sat there for a couple hours, I know, and you were there, but I don't think that you remember any of it.
No.
But yeah, so I'm trying, okay. And sorry.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so he acted like he was going to leave, and then he got all the way to the door and did not leave, and said, no, I'm not going. And he came, and I'm still holding the gun, and he came back toward me and pushed me back down the hall of the trailer and all the way into the back bedroom. And that's when I shot him and killed him, shot him in the gut and killed him. And it went on from there.
And you didn't know at the time that I remember you telling me this, you didn't know at the time he was dead. You thought he was playing.
Yeah. I thought he was kidding because of the face that he made when I shot him. It was like animated, like, I can't believe you just did this. And then he fell to the floor. I thought it was a ploy to get me to put the gun down, actually. So, but I still held onto the gun, and he started calling his name. And then I realized, I think I saw the blood. When I saw the blood, I realized he's not getting back up. And so I grabbed you, and the gun, went across the street to the neighbors, and I told them to call 911. I just shot Richard. And they did. And there you have it.
How old were you?
I think I was 23 at the time. I think it was in June or July of 93. So I would have been 23. And you would have been almost 3.
That, I can't imagine being 23 and going through that. I cannot imagine. You had already been living a hard life with him, with an abuser, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm trying to find a way to ask this question, but
you can just ask it.
Was there ever a moment of like a little bit of relief that you were done getting, I mean, not that someone had died, you know, at your hand, but like, what here's a better way of asking, what were you feeling after it had settled in that he had passed away?
Well, right after he passed away, I was distraught. My family had put me on round the clock suicide watch because I just kept saying crazy stuff like, I want to be buried with him and just let me be buried with him and stuff like that. I was a basket case after he died. I don't remember feeling relief. Yeah. Really, to be honest, I don't ever remember feeling relief because I think that I still, even to this day, walk around looking over my shoulder and wondering if somebody else is going to try to attack me. And that's like it's like an irrational fear that I have that I'm going to be attacked. I know that sounds weird. And I don't tell anybody, but I just told the whole world. So
I'm interested, what you mean, like a domestic kind of attack, like attack from a man, or?
it's always, my irrational fear is it's always from a man, but that I'm going to be attacked somehow. I don't know. It's weird. I just never felt relief.
Yeah.
That it was over. It doesn't really, it's never really over. I don't know.
No, that
I
makes
think
sense.
that might be PTSD or whatever. I don't know what that is, but.
Right. I think,
Yeah.
you have to give yourself, you are such a trooper all the time and get through things without really sitting in them a lot. You're like, well, it's what I had to do and it's what I did, but that is a very traumatic experience, and it makes total sense that there be remnants of like scary feelings.
Right.
So then.
Yeah, it makes sense. I just wish that fear would go away.
I do too. That's why we're taking up a GoFundMe to get my entire family therapy. We want all. Therapy is so important.
How about therapy for the world? Everybody needs it, especially after 2020.
Amen. So, and on top of this, you went through the trauma of being in an abusive relationship, and then that happened, defending yourself and your kid against an attacker. And then
right.
You go to court.
And that's what it was too. When he pulled out that gun, it was like my mind went into action mode. It was like everything became crystal clear. And I thought, okay, it's me and my 2-year-old daughter here. What? No, this can't happen. We're going to and then my first thought was, I have to get that gun. I have to get that gun. I have to get us out of this situation. And I think that was my first thought. I don't know if everybody would think that way, but my first thought was, my mind went crystal clear and said, okay, now we have to make a plan. We got to get out of this, especially with you being there. If he had killed me, what would he have done to you? Our little 2-year-old, you were just a baby, a little chubby little chubster baby.
Hey, all right with the chubby. No, I'm just kidding. No, totally. And I don't know if anybody ever made comments to you about what happened that night, but you don't know about situations unless you're in them.
No, absolutely not. I could tell you all day long what I would do in any situation, but you don't know that that's how you're going to act, So
at 23-ish, around there, this all happened, and then, you went to court, and they...
Right. Didn't go to court until February of, that was at 95. I think it was, or was it 94? I think it might have been 94. Yeah.
So you had about a year to wait?
A few months, because this was June. Oh, yeah, this was June of 93, and then we went to court February of 94. So it was a few months later.
Okay. What were you thinking in those few months? Were you like, there's no way?
Oh, no. I was scared because I was facing 25 to life. I went to court on second-degree murder. They were charging me with second-degree murder.
Even though under the circumstances.
25 to life. Yeah. Even though the cops knew us by our first name, had been to our house multiple times. Yeah, it didn't matter. But all that didn't come out until the court. You know what I'm saying? That the cops came out, and we had testimony from the police that came out to our house. So, I mean, I knew it, but no, I wasn't thinking, oh yeah, this is a cakewalk or anything like that. No, I wasn't thinking that at all. I was facing 25 years to life.
And what was it like being in a, because I know like his family was pretty big in that town. What was it like being in the town and everybody knowing what went down?
It was scary. I didn't go out very much. I know that his family had threatened to come and get you, to take you, and that scared me. And so I didn't get out very much.
Hmm.
Since everybody knew his family, knew who they were, and all that.
Who did you lean on in those times during that time?
Who?
Hmm.
I guess my parents. My parents were right there the whole time. They're the ones that got the money together for the lawyer. I owe them everything.
Hmm.
I mean, they paid thousands and thousands of dollars for this.
Yeah.
So
So
them
then
and my family.
they what now? What'd you say?
Them and my whole family.
Right. We got a good family for sure. Support.
Yeah, we do. We really do.
So the verdict, you were convicted, not 25 years to life. It was involuntary manslaughter, right?
It was criminally negligent homicide, so that would have been, involuntary manslaughter, same thing.
Okay, criminally negligent, anemone.
Anemone. It's criminally negligent homicide. And they said the negligence was me not breaking up with Richard and leaving him, which really I did, which my lawyer apparently didn't get the point across that we had been split up for 2 weeks by the time Richard was killed.
I read the transcripts though, and I feel like that came across pretty clear. They just weren't listening.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah.
So
I thought it was clear.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's just insane to me that it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating.
It is. Yeah.
Because
it is.
So you went to, people always ask when I tell people this story, they're like, "Oh wow, how long was she in jail?" They're so focused on like jail was the worst part. But it wasn't, right?
No, the worst part was waiting for the verdict to come back. Are you talking about as far as the courtroom?
No,
and all that afterwards?
What?
The worst part was him dying. That was the worst part. I mean, I wouldn't wish anybody dead.
I know. So, what did you feel when the verdict came back? Do you remember?
I felt like it should have been not guilty because of all the things that had happened with us and all the testimony that was given, backing up everything that I said.
Mm-hmm.
But I was glad it wasn't second degree.
Yeah. So you went to jail for how?
But I felt like it. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. You felt like what?
I just felt like it should have been not guilty. Right. But then again, doesn't everyone?
Yes, but
when
then
they're gone to trial.
This isn't you saying I shot him because he was a meanie. You were defending yourself on top of him being dangerous. So
right, yeah, exactly.
So I agree with you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So how long were you in jail for?
I was there for 120 days, 4 months.
Mm.
And then 4 months rolled around. They weren't letting me out. And it was not good.
Why were they not letting you out?
because I was a state prisoner in a county jail, I never got sent to prison, like the big house in Nashville. I stayed in the county jail. I guess because it was just 4 months and I was small potatoes. I don't know why. But anyway, they had to wait for the papers to come in from the state to let me go. And so January 10th was my release date. And 11th rolled around, the 12th rolled around, and I'm like, no. So I called your grandmother, my mother, and I said, Mom, they're not letting me out. And she said, here I come to save the day. And so she grabs my sister, your Aunt Misty, and she tells Dad, she's like, I'm going to get Rima. I'm not coming back without her. And if anything happens, I want you to call every news station in Nashville. So he was like, okay. And she got down there and told the sheriff that she's here to get me and she's not leaving without me. And the sheriff says, no, you're going to have to go, and grabs her by the arm, and she has faint, like fakes a faint, falls out on the floor. The sheriff has her arrested. And the deputy, Misty said the deputy looked at him and said, for what? And he was like, disorderly conduct. So they threw your grandmother in the clinker upstairs with me, but they wouldn't put us in the same cell together. I thought maybe because we were going to start a riot or something. Who knows? But she was there for about 3 days, refusing to bail out. And we could talk to each other under the door. And she was like, Rima, this is cool. This is so cool. It's like being in a Mexican prison. I'm like, yeah, it's just like that, Mom. Yeah. That's how I felt for 4 months.
We're all having a really fun, exciting time.
We're having a great time in here, Mom. Glad you could join us. And the deputy calls me out in the hall that night. And he's like, Rima, your mom refuses to bail out. And I said, so why are you telling me? And he said, she doesn't need to be in here. I'm like, that sounds like your problem to me. I'm not telling her to do anything. Well, she ended up going, I think that was over the weekend maybe. I can't remember, but she ended up going to court for like 3 days later. And the judge, I think he dropped the charges, which forces her to leave. You can't move into the jail. And on their way from driving her back to the jail, they called me out and said, pack your stuff, you're leaving. And they released us both at the same time. So I guess she did what she accomplished. She did what she came to do.
So they could have let you go.
And they could have, yeah. And, years later, that was probably, my mother would say that was the most proudest moment in her life. And she did do a good job. I was proud of her.
Yeah, the fake fainting is really just like a last minute pull through. That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah, he grabbed her by the arm and she just fell out on the floor. Oh, my neck and my back.
Settle out of court right now.
I'll settle out of court right now for my daughter.
So once you got out, and this is like, only part of the reason that you are my hero. Once you got out, no matter, it doesn't matter that you were only in there for 4 months. As a felon, your entire life now was dictated by that title.
Oh yeah. I'm a felon. And certain people won't hire me. I can't work with certain companies, and it pretty much has just dictated my whole life since I got out. Yes.
Still, like you can't apply. I wanted you to apply for Uber, and Uber drivers who have been like, I've had drivers who have like sexually creeped me out, and they rather hire them than a felon.
Yeah. Well, sexually creeping somebody out doesn't fall on a piece of paper like mine does.
You know what? Maybe it should. No, no.
Maybe they should wear a scarlet letter.
Right. And
I treat people out.
and just to be clear, it's not that you can do something about it and you're not. It's like, what's the deal with that? It won't go off your record or
Because it's considered a violent crime because a weapon was involved, they won't, I can't get it expunged. It's on me forever. But now I did apply to get my voting rights back. Now that I was adamant about. I was like, if I can vote, I'm going to vote. And I did it. I applied and they were like, oh yeah, sure. The election commission in Sparta was just I think she's the head of it. I can't remember her name, but she was just so helpful. She's like, okay, now you need to write these people, tell them everything you can, do this, do that, jump through these hoops, and you're going to get it. You'll be fine. She's very nice.
That's so nice. And the first time you voted again since being a felon was Obama, right?
Obama, and that's why I got my voting rights back, because he was running, and I was like, I'm going to vote for that man. I am going to vote for him. And I did. I got him right. I got him back in time to vote for him.
That's so nice. Awesome. You're such a badass.
Thank you.
You know, we talked about you teaching yourself welding, which is freaking awesome. Like, I remember those were some of my favorite hugs from you because you always smelled just like so, I don't know, like rusty. You would come home from work and just smell like in your big coat.
Like burnt metal.
Yeah.
With those hats on.
Yeah. But like we have this running joke, everybody, with my mom, where literally mention anything within your surrounding area, be like, oh, that's a cute chair. And my mom will be like, I used to work at a chair factory. Like, you have had so many jobs.
I did. And I'm not lying. I did. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, though, because a lot of these jobs I only worked for a month, maybe, something like that. I need another drink.
Yeah.
And so it's not like I worked at them for years. I mean, they could have been just a couple months jobs.
Well, yes, but it gave you a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, which I think is valuable.
And the bragging rights.
Exactly. What was being a welder like? Because that's mainly a male-dominated field.
Oh yeah, it's definitely male-dominated. It was okay. I had to learn a lot on the job. So, and what I found with being, I wish I could mentor some of younger women in going into the construction field, even if it's not welding or whatever, because there's certain things that you do and you don't do. And when it comes to working with a male in a male-dominated field. But I found that a lot of the older men, the men who had grown daughters themselves, would take me under their wing and say, hey, you need to do it this way, you need to do it that way. And so I kept my eyes and my ears open and my mouth shut, and I listened to what they had to say, and I learned on the job. And it was a lot of the younger guys who were my age or maybe even younger than me who thought that I didn't belong there. And they had no qualms about letting their feelings known that they thought you don't belong there.
Right.
You know, they talk to you like crazy. And then you had, I never really, as far as being sexually harassed, I think that was my own doing because I never allowed it to happen. If I even saw it going into that direction, you have to nip it. You just nip it right from the start. And then they won't do it anymore. Only one guy said something about me being a woman. And bless him. His name was Emmett Humphreys. If you're watching, Emmett, I still remember you, man. But I had taken his fire blanket, which is a blanket that you put over stuff underneath you, so the sparks from your stinger doesn't, set something on fire below you. It's like made out of fiberglass. It's like a fiberglass blanket, something like that. And I had taken it because he had gotten up and walked off. He is an old iron worker. I don't even know if he's still alive. I hope he is, though. But I had taken it when he had gotten up and walked off, and he came back and saw that I had it, and he was screaming up at me on the mezzanine, "Hey, hey!" And he said, "That's my fire blanket." And I said, "Well, if you don't care, I'm going to use it." And he's like, "Yeah, I care. The only reason why you got this job is because you're a woman." And I said, "Oh, no, he didn't go there." And I stood straight up, and as soon as I stood up, right after he said it, when I stood up, he took off. Here he goes. And I find his supervisor in their trailer, in the ironworkers trailer, and he was a short guy who wore a huge white hard hat cowboy hat. I mean, this thing was huge. Oh, he was
Hard
cute.
hat?
He was a little cutie. It's a cowboy hat that's made out of hard hat material, so it would pass as a hard hat.
That is Southern. This was Texas, right?
This was Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Alabama. So I go in there and I throw that fire blanket down his feet, and I said, "You tell Emmett Humphreys that the only reason why I got this job is because I'm a woman. He can take that fire blanket and he can shove it straight up his ass." And that guy was like, whoa, wait a minute. I said, "No, whoa, I got to get back to work." And I left. And by the time I got back to my area where I was working, here comes the supervisor with Emmett and making Emmett apologize to me. So there wouldn't be a sexual harassment lawsuit, I guess. But there wouldn't have been one anyway, because if that life is a small world. Everyone knows everyone. And if you ever brought a sexual harassment suit, you wouldn't work in that business again. They just won't hire you. You know what I'm saying?
Because it's seen as like
so
drama.
It never would have. I'm sorry?
Because then you'd be seen as like drama, bringing drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why you have to handle it yourself. And you can't let it start, because if it ever starts, you're never going to stop it. I've seen it. I've seen it happen. So anyway, well, I don't even remember the question.
No, you answered it. How'd you shut it down? Were you just like, stop?
Well, like for instance, at this fab shop that I've worked for a couple of times, there was a young guy there. He was younger than me. Nice guy. I still see him to this day. I saw him a couple months ago. But at one time, he had tried to hug me and came up to me and put his arms around me. And I'm like, no, don't. No touching. Don't touch me. Hold on, I need my chapstick. My chapstick. That should be a whole interview right there.
Honestly.
So just things like that. You have to stop it from the beginning, because if I hadn't stopped it and let him touch me, he would have touched me again some other time.
Mm-hmm. So how did you said you weren't certified as a welder. How did you get on a team?
No. Well, they don't have teams. You mean how did I get hired?
Yeah, how'd you get hired?
You don't have to be, you didn't at that time. In the 90s, you did not have to be certified to be a welder, to work in a fab shop. There were certain things you couldn't do. Like I couldn't go on to that bank site and weld the I-beams there on the site because I had to be certified. Certain things people require you to be certified, like to go to work for a bridge company. If I was welding on bridges, you have to be certified because you're talking about people's lives at stake. So they want certification on certain jobs, but a lot of them they didn't.
Were you nervous for your test?
From my first test?
Mm-hmm.
I had to test on every job I went to. But my first test, yes, I was very nervous. I had to do an Arkansas bell hold test. Now, I had only been working with a wire machine at this time when I had taught myself how to weld. It was just a little MIG welder. And an Arkansas bell hold test is with it's with a stick, a stinger and a stick, AC/DC. Anyway, it's a lot harder because you're dealing with a stick that's like way, far away from your thing, and you got to work it until you get down to it.
Okay.
I know I'm not making any sense, but yeah. So I had no idea what I was doing, not a clue. And one guy came by and he was like, "Hey, you're doing that wrong. You need to do it this way." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." See, it started right from the beginning. And I said, "Oh, okay." And they took it and they x-rayed it. And the boss comes back and he's like, "Well, you failed the test." And I wasn't surprised because it was not good. And he goes, "But you got a nice weld and, you weld really good. Would you consider doing iron work for the pipe department?" And I said, "Heck yeah, man." And he hired me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you went back to work for that guy a couple times. Right?
For that guy, I did not.
Okay.
That was D.F. Schaffner out of Knoxville. I've not worked for them but one time.
Okay.
But now Stone Brothers, I worked for them a couple of times.
That's what it is.
I've worked for a couple of companies a couple of times.
One of my favorite stories about your welding career, and can you tell about the plumb bob incident?
This is how you get yourself in those moments, those sexually charged moments of men and women working together. So it was at the steel mill somewhere in Alabama. I think we were in Birmingham, can't remember, but it was in Alabama, and we were welding fiberglass pipe. And so fiberglass pipe is you're just gluing it together, but it still had to have a pipe fitter, somebody who knew where to cut on the angles and how to turn it and all that kind of stuff. And so we had a pipe fitter, and then we had me and another girl were there with him, helping him weld this pipe. And I don't know if you know what a plumb bob is, but a plumb bob is a heavy piece of metal that's shaped like a teardrop that might be about 4 or 5 inches long. And it's really heavy, and it comes to a point at the end. It's shaped like a teardrop.
Mm-hmm.
It comes to a point, and you use it to weight a string down so you can get a straight line, down the end of your pipe or something. You lay that string across your pipe, and then that pipe bob weighs that string down so it doesn't move. So anyway, the young guy, we were probably about the same age, in our 20s, and he lost his plumb bob. So he's like, "I don't know where my plumb bob went. Where did it go?" And we're like, "We'll help you." And we're looking around. And then I look at him, and I notice he has a big bulge in his pocket, in his jeans pocket. And I'm like, "Is that it in your pocket?" And he looks down, he goes, "No."
You're like, "Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Looking elsewhere. Look, maybe it's up there. I don't know.
Maybe it's in this hole that I'm digging for myself." That is hilarious.
Oh, that was embarrassing.
That is so
yeah,
funny.
He was all coy. No, that's not it.
You noticed, though. That's amazing. So, you have 2 amazing daughters that you raised.
Yes, I do.
I like as a child.
You were an entertainer. You were always the center of attention, always dancing, singing, doing funny stuff. You never asked for anything. Never. I think the first time you ever asked for anything for Christmas, you were 9 years old. Before that, you were just like, I have everything. I have everything I want. I don't want anything. But you were always just, and your dad was the same way. You were like your dad in a lot of ways. He was always the life of the party, just laughing and entertaining people and being funny, and a fabulous dancer just like you. And I don't know, that's just how you were. You were just the entertainment. We didn't need cable. We had you.
Now that's awesome. I want to touch on, you just mentioned that in a lot of ways I was like my dad, and I've told you this before, but that is one of the many reasons I'm so grateful and in awe by you and to you, because a lot of people, it would have made sense to be like, your dad was an abuser and he was a piece of shit, like, end of story, blah. But, because you'd been hurt, it would have made sense. But you, like, you never held anything back from me. And you never sugarcoated things, but you also let me know who my dad was, which was just, you did it in such a perfect way for such a young woman to do, that it's amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you, honey.
Yeah.
No, because, he was your dad, and that's not going to change anything. And me running him through the mill was not going to change. That wouldn't have benefited anybody. And the man is dead. He's not with us anymore. So I'm not going to down him to you and make you think bad things about him when he has no defense for himself. Yeah. And the only way that you would know him is from what I tell you. So, and there were good things about your dad. Heck, it's not like I just fell into his life, but, something attracted me to him.
Right.
So,
and I think that,
he had some good qualities.
Definitely. And I think that gave me a good sense of everybody has sides to them. So it gave, it wasn't like, oh, you're an abuser, you're a terrible person that deserves everything bad. No, like you used to say, my dad would be like, why don't you take it like my mom used to? Like, it was a learned behavior.
Oh yeah. I definitely think that that's a learned behavior. I don't think you're born beating your women or beating your men. Anybody who would haul off and hit somebody else it's a learned behavior. I don't think I've never known anybody to just do that and not have any consequences for it. I've seen kids haul off and hit each other, but they get whipped or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. I think the behavior is learned. I think that spousal abuse and domestic violence is a learned behavior. And he did used to tell me that. Why don't you just take this like my mother did? And that's when I knew that he had gotten it from his parents.
Well, I really appreciate
his dad. His dad.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I appreciate the way you've always been, the way you've introduced me to my dad. And, I have I know him as well as I could, as well as I can. And that's because of you. Like, you really did a great job.
Thank you, honey.
So, did you always want to be a mom?
No. I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
Not when I was younger. I never really thought about it. When I was older and married, I did, of course. Heather was planned, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my sister. That's my older sister.
That's your older sister, yeah. Yeah, she was planned. You were a surprise, a little surprise.
Before you got married, what were your plans more like? Was it like fashion, or what were you more interested in?
I was interested in fashion. At that time, I had no plans of going to New York or anything. I didn't know.
Mm.
And I was thinking about that earlier. Sometimes I wonder if the kids who came of age in the 80s, if they were even, it's like there's a whole generation of 80s kids who weren't encouraged to do anything. I don't know. It's just something I've noticed. I've witnessed. Just I know that there was no real encouragement, like, or even discussion about it. Like I used to have discussions with you. Okay, you need to start figuring out what you want to do. What do you love to do? And then figure that out and follow it. Nothing like that was ever discussed with me. So I never really thought about it.
Wow. And you saw that like a lot in your peers too? You feel like people had similar experiences?
I think so too. I think a lot of people my age right now who are just, we would talk about what we used to do in the 80s, and there was nothing about, oh yeah, I was going to do this and I was going to do that, and I had all these plans. And I've noticed that in a lot of people that I've talked to, like that from the 80s. But it could just be the small number that I'm with, that I talk to. I just wish there had been more discussion about it, encouragement.
Well, you did a great job as a mom with that. I always felt supported and encouraged.
Thank you, honey. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. How was being a mom different than what you expected? Like, what were some of the challenges and maybe the surprising, really good parts about it?
The challenges were how you guys would cry. I can't find my top. There it is. Well, everybody expects their kids to cry. I just had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
Not a clue. And, oh gosh, there for a while. Now, Heather was a good baby. She just slept all the time and never did anything, never really gave me any problems. Now you were hell on wheels. I mean, from the minute you came out, you were like, yeah, bitches, I'm here. And it was just like, it was chaos from the time that you got here until you were about 3. And then I married my second husband, the one that left me, and I think that he did a lot for me in the way of raising you. I really do. I mean, I like to think that everybody who's come into my life has given me some kind of lesson that I learned, or, something advantage to my life. And I think that was the one from him, was how to take care of you and take control back of being a mother. And, those were challenging, is getting control.
Did he already have kids?
Yeah, he had 3 boys.
Oh, whoa, okay.
Yeah. And then the first time I went down that we were going to spend a weekend at his house, you refused to go to bed. And you were just screaming. I think you were about 3 then. And he nipped it. And he's like, this is what you need to do. You need to get control of the situation. And I did from then on. I whipped your little butt.
Yes,
both
you did.
Of you.
Yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did. So, what were some of the coolest parts about, you were a young mom, and you didn't, I feel like a lot of moms are just kind of handed a baby and then it's like, okay, bye, good luck.
It is. That's exactly how it is. Don't come back.
What were some of the coolest parts you remember about having a baby?
Oh my gosh, dressing you guys up. I think having girls was the best because then you have all these little pink frou-frou things and dressing you guys up. That would be the best. Making sure that you guys were always clean and always dressed to the nines. Every time we went out, I could look like I just rolled out of bed, but you guys had to look clean and put together every time we went somewhere. You with your bows. Heather had bows too. She had that curly cute hair. But yeah, that was probably the best part, is dressing you up and showing you off. I love doing that.
We were
My two little girls.
we were stinking cute.
Yeah, you were. You were cute girls. You still are. Both of you are gorgeous.
Why don't you dress us anymore?
Because we don't live together, and I think that you guys did that on purpose.
No.
Remember when you ran off to Chicago and left me here?
Left me to die.
Left me to die?
Anyway, next question. No. So this next question that I asked, and I'll go first on this, is what is the most beautiful thing we find about each other?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I should have just started with this because there is pretty much everything you are is the most beautiful thing I find in another human.
Oh, thank you, honey.
You are an amazing yin and yang balance of kindness and caring and tough and go-getter. So like, my entire life growing up, you handled your business and you handled being a mom and your own person with such grace. And if we were struggling, I never felt it. I knew that we didn't have a lot of money, but I never wanted for anything. I never was like thrown in of like, help me figure this out. You just always kept it together. Just a boss, the first to graduate in graduate college in our family. I didn't mention that. Like,
thank you.
Just so many milestones that I was able to look up to. And just, that's how I see you, is just this strong, amazing, unique, creative, hilarious, wonderful human. And then on the other side of that, and how a lot of people tell me they see you, is you're so kind and warm and people want to be around you and they love your energy. And the first thing that popped into my head is like badass, strong, whoa, but when people say that, I'm like, oh yeah, and also that. So I would say the most beautiful thing I find about you is just you're the perfect mama.
Thank you, honey.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, what I find about you, is that the question?
Mm-hmm.
I find that you are like a life coach. You're always intuitive and you're strong and you're a go-getter and you see what you want and you go after it. And you've always been like that. Even in school, I never had to push you. You were just always just going after whatever you want. And that makes me very proud of you. And you're strong, but you're very kind-hearted too. But you look at life in kind of a positive way and try to keep things positive, and that's what I love about you, is how positive you try to keep your life, and you encourage other people. You always encourage me when I'm feeling down or whatever, and you're gonna bring me to tears. I'm just so proud of you. You're just a go-getter. You're a fighter, and you see what you want and you go after it and you get it every time. You get it. Like winning contests. You're the only person I've ever seen that wins every freaking contest they're ever put in.
It is true. Sometimes I have to be like, do I want a boat? Do I really want this boat?
Where am I going to put the boat? Okay. I mean, there is a marina down on Lake Michigan, but do I want to put my boat there?
Thank you, Mama. I love you so much. And it's interesting
I love
that
you too, honey.
a lot of the things you say about me, I got from you. So I'm blessed.
Oh,
Blessed with a good mom.
thank you.
Um,
Thank you, honey.
so you talked about recently, you were like, a lot of you attribute, or sorry, you're grateful for a lot of the lessons you learned from other people.
Mm-hmm.
How did Granny's, your mother's mothering, influence the way you were a mother?
That's a tough question. And I guess you want honesty.
We don't have to talk about it.
Probably be best here. No, I'll answer it. There were some things that she did that I knew that I did not want to be that way when I was a mother. My mom wasn't very affectionate. There was no hugs or kisses and, I love you. I hardly ever heard I love you unless I told her that first and she responded back to me. For me, myself, there was not a lot of encouragement in things that I found interest in. But on the other hand, my mom was a badass too. And like her going to jail for me and stuff like that, just stuff like that. She taught me how to be tough and the things that she got over a lot of stuff too. And I watched her get through a lot of things and that taught me how to be tough and just the way that she reacted to it was we just keep our heads up and we keep on going. Yeah. And so I think that's how I got that from my mother, which in turn, I don't know who she got that from. It could have been her mother. I don't know. But I did get that from her.
Yeah.
You just keep barreling through no matter what.
You totally, that's, I'm glad you said those things. And it's, you did such a great job of always letting us know that I'll speak for myself, letting me know that you loved me. You were very affectionate. And you also did a great job of, I wanted us to be best friends because I loved you so much. And I was like, oh, you're my best friend. And I'd be like, Mama, you're my best friend. And you're like, I'm not your friend.
Exactly. You had friends. I was your mother. So Mom first and then friends.
Exactly. You did a great job of balancing those two things, was that difficult to do? Like, what was it like learning when to comment on my life and hold back or like,
well,
share things?
It wasn't difficult to do because, that's how, as far as giving you advice and stuff, I never found that difficult to do. I did, and separating friendship, I just thought, I guess I learned that from my mother too. Don't back down because the minute you back down, that's when they're going to stomp you into the ground. Kids are little terrorists, man. And if they see an opening, they will jump on it. And I knew that from a long time ago, so that's why I kept the friendship to a minimum and always wanted it to be mother and daughter. There wasn't any reason why we couldn't be close. I don't see any reason why that couldn't happen. But I never wanted to be taken advantage of. Not that you were going to, but I'm just saying that that's where I was coming from in that aspect. You friends, you had plenty of friends. You didn't need another friend.
Right.
You needed a mother. And your dad was gone, so I had to be a mother and a father. Mm-hmm. And we had to get you raised into a way that you knew how to take care of yourself when I was gone. So, and that's the that's the job of parents, is not to be your friend, but to prepare you to take care of yourself when they're not around anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, that's, and if you don't do that with your kids, you're failing them. They have to, you're not always going to be there. They have to be able to take care of themselves in any of the animal kingdom. I mean, bears, monkeys, elephants, they all prepare their children to take care of themselves. And that's our job. And being your friend is not going to enhance that.
Yeah. That is a very good point. And I don't want to speak for people who have kids who are like, I want to be their friend. Okay, here's what I'm trying to say. I think that maybe some people who are like, oh, I want to be friends with my kids so they can come to me with things and I don't they don't feel like they can't come to me. But you did a great job of where I felt comfortable talking with you about everything. I mean, yes, there were things.
Yeah, nothing was taboo in our house. You could talk to me about anything. Yeah, if you wanted to talk about sex, anything. Nothing was taboo. No.
Yeah, nothing was taboo. So like you even said, a lot of the times, like, whatever you're doing is fine. Just let me know where you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what I always told you and Heather. I was like, even if you want to go to a bar at 18, at least tell me where you're going. So if something does happen, at least I know where to start and we're not wasting time trying to figure out where this all started. Yeah, let's just be real about it,
Right.
Think common sense. That's what I've tried to tell you guys. Just think common sense wise.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to hide anything. And I think that's where the notion that you guys can come to me about anything, and I wanted you to be able to.
Right.
So.
And I've always felt that way. And what's cool about our relationship is that we spent, a lot of time together, and obviously you had I wouldn't call them secrets, but you had your personal life. You weren't like, so here's what Mama's doing, But I remember watching Sex in the City with you and being like, what are they doing there? And you'd be like, well, that's this and this. There was no like, oh, don't turn that TV off, they're showing boobies, or,
No. And my mom was the same way.
Oh, okay.
I remember the movie Blue Lagoon came out when we were young, and she wanted to take me and Misty to go see Blue Lagoon for educational purposes.
Now, what is Blue Lagoon about?
Two kids being stranded on a desert island together, and they end up having a baby and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it was very, it was out there for the time. This was in the 80s. Yeah, and so my mom was the same way. You could talk to her about anything. She didn't care.
That's really awesome.
I
feel like we've kind of touched on it with like you being open and me being allowed to come to you about things, but I ask other guests this question about what is something others might not understand about our relationship, something unique. I would say that we are delightfully close. Like, now I would say you are my best friend,
Right. Yeah. I think we're at an age where we could probably say we're friends now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
don't tell you what to do anymore. You don't backtalk me anymore.
I'm not the 13-year-old devil that entered your sweet chocolate.
Oh gosh. Yes. Woo, you woke up that morning, you had 3 heads and they were all spinning. And then Granny was like, what is going on here? And I said, that's not my daughter. I said, my daughter is actually in a pod on the mothership, and this is who they sent me in her place.
We have to get
Welcome
her
to
back.
puberty. And we have to get her back soon. Yeah, that was puberty. That's why I tell everybody with little daughters about 7 or 8, I said, just wait. You think they're bad now? You think it's tough now? Just wait till she's around 13, 14, and she wakes up and she is a monster.
Well, I've said this before and I want to say it again. I apologize. And
No, you don't have to apologize. We knew what it was. It wasn't a big deal. And if you just, all any mother has to do is just say, okay, yeah, I know exactly what this is. And you just let it ride. It'll tire itself out. They'll send you back down from the mothership. Take the alien representation, replication, or whatever you call it, reproduction.
oh my God. And I don't remember that. I'm sure you do, but I don't.
Oh yeah. We all do, except for you. That's because you weren't here.
They had
You
my
were
body.
asleep. You were asleep in a pod. You were just asleep.
You mentioned it for a sec, you were like, oh, I don't tell you what to do. What was that like? Having your kid all of a sudden be like, let me figure it out on my own, or what, how did you manage when to tell me what to do and when to just let me figure it out?
That is the tough one. I know that I whipped you guys from the time you were little to the time, I think the last time I whipped you, you were 14. And I remember after stopping from the whippings, thinking, okay, she's too old for this. And from that point on, I talked and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. And how do you feel? And what do you want to do? And let's get your opinion, and trying to get you to figure out your own way that you want to go, your own path, and trying to help you out with it and help you, figure it out. And it's just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And so I remember that happening a lot, and my mouth getting dry, kind of like it is right now, just talking and talking and talking. So there was a lot of that, and I don't know. I liked watching you turn into this person who was figuring things out for yourself. You did such a good job at that. It, like when you were getting ready to go to college and you started doing all these, the grants and writing those essays for the grants, you did that all on your own and just constantly doing so. And I enjoyed watching you blossom into this person who could figure it out for herself. So if I did anything, it was just try to encourage you to keep doing. Now, the worst part about trying to rein you in was with boyfriends. The minute you start telling somebody, hey, he's not right for you, all of a sudden it's you and him against the world, and we're going to stick this out no matter what. And I knew that because I was the same way. Every girl is the same way, and you recognize yourself. And so that took a lot of talking, trying to get you to see what I'm seeing. And sometimes you did, and sometimes you didn't. But most of the time, all the times you did the right thing. You did the right thing every time.
And you were so
Because
perfect.
now here you are with a wonderful man who is just so wonderful, and we all love him so much.
Yes, we do.
And you did good.
Thank you, Mama. And I have a lot. I have a lot to attribute to you. Yep, I have a lot to attribute to you. That nothing, not that there's anything wrong with this, but it wasn't my desire to get pregnant and be living in the same town I grew up in. That wasn't what I wanted to
I
do.
know.
And thank
I
God
know.
you didn't just let me do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause-
Yeah. My encouragement was to get out of this town.
Mhm.
If you want to come back here when you retire, great. But get out of here.
Mm-hmm. And on the boyfriends thing, I know you know this and I remember it, but my mom actually, with one particular boyfriend, had me on lockdown. The 2020 was not my first experience of a lockdown. She had me on lockdown from this
With
guy.
quarantine.
Mm-hmm. Because you were like, he's bad for you. And I'm like, no, we're in love. And you're like, click. Like, and thank God.
Yeah.
It was a good, yeah.
Just those were not the right people.
Yeah.
And I knew it. Because you're heading to the top. Straight to the top.
And I'm bringing you with me, Mommy, both of us.
Oh, what? Okay.
You're always at the top in my book.
Thank you, honey.
So we're nearing the end of the interview. I just have a couple more questions. One of them would be, what would be, and you have so much of it, but what would be your mama says advice, whether that's to parents or the kids? What would be your number one advice?
My number one advice would be encourage your kids, see what they enjoy, see what they love, and don't push them in that direction, but encourage them to find their own path in what they love and to keep that encouragement, keep behind them the whole way, and keep encouraging them to, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about doing that? And that's what that was where the talking came in. I had to constantly ask, hey, have you thought about this, or have you thought about that direction, or, and then to listen to what they say. Just don't push it, just encourage it. And it has to be, because it ultimately has to be their decision, or they're not going to love it. Not the way that you want them to love it. So if you got like a basketball star or a football star, if they don't love it, then, let them find their own way. You want a kid to play in the NFL, but he wants to be a theater person. Let them be theater. It doesn't, because their life is not your life. You're not going to live your life vicariously through them. So just keep the encouragement going. And talk to your kids. Ask them questions. Try to get them to engage with you on their hopes and their dreams so you'll know which way to encourage them to go.
That's really great.
That's my advice.
That's great advice. And it worked for you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, parents, my mom did a great job and I love her more than anything. So
oh, thank you. I love you more than anything too, honey.
So that the final question is, now that this is stamped in time and we have this forever, which I'm so happy, is what would we like each other to know forever? And I can go first.
Okay.
I'm just gonna cry.
Okay.
I want you to know forever that okay, the reason I am who I am today is because of you and everything you sacrificed and the love that you gave me. And it didn't just stop when I was grown. It still influences me today. I know that I can come to you. So I want you to know that every single moment and everything I do, I'm thinking and thanking you. And you are the bar of success to me and always have been. You're my number one hero.
Oh, thank you, sweetie. And I want you to know that I can't imagine my life without you. Ever since that you came into my life, you have been like a plus to me, like a joy having you. And I'm just so proud of you. And I love you so much. And I'm so glad that I got to share some of my life with you. I love you.
I love you more than
Forever
anything.
and ever. I love you more than anything too, honey.
Oh boy. Wonderful. I love you so much, Mama.
I love you too, honey.
Thank you for coming on here and sharing
Oh,
your
you're welcome.
beautiful heart and mind and spirit. I'm so glad that people just get to know you just a little bit, because you are a treat.
Thank you, honey.